So last week, I think it was last week, Mum said to me, she said, have you heard of Behemoth? And I thought, yeah, I have, but actually, something really big maybe, but I don't really know. It was sort of something that was kind of swirling around a little bit in my brain, and I knew that I had heard, but wasn't entirely sure was the point of all that. And so I thought, okay, well, that's quite interesting, because she'd had it as a crossword clue actually, and didn't know the answer. I had to look up the answer, and she said, it might be something really interesting for you to do. So that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about Behemoth and Leviathan, and they kind of come as a pair. And probably you've heard of Leviathan as well. And again, you kind of think of some kind of huge, maybe destructive animal. Even if you think about that at all, you might just think about Hobbes and his book, his sort of philosophical book called Leviathan. Philosophical book, a book about philosophy. Have you heard of Ziz? Z-I-Z. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Ziz, ziz, ziz. Well, you will have heard of these three creatures after today. Okay, so here, first of all, let's bring up this the image that I put on stories. So Behemoth and Leviathan are in this image somewhere. I don't know about Ziz. I'm going to say I don't know about Ziz. This is a mosaic. And I'm saying Behemoth and Leviathan are here. But I don't know. I guess that's kind of a moot point, and we'll have to decide maybe at the end whether we think they are. Yes, so this is a mosaic, and the reason that I'm saying don't know whether they are is because these are from the 1st century BC. So, and Leviathan and Behemoth are actually first mentioned. They're mentioned in the book of Job. They're mentioned more in the Hebrew scriptures. So obviously BC, that's before all of that, but they do talk about the origins of creation. So I'm wondering whether it's borrowed from, whether this origins of creation has been borrowed from classical antiquity. So this is a mosaic that is in the House of the Fawn in Pompeii. This is somewhere I really want to go. I've been to Pompeii, but years and years and years ago, so I must go back there. So House of the Fawn is so cool because of this little fella. This is a replica, and originally this was still a bronze statue that was prominently displayed within this house, and the House of the Fawn was one of the most exquisite, one of the most luxurious villas in all of Pompeii. So had included these mosaics, which I will come back to. Okay, so which ones were Leviathan and Behemoth there? Well, I'm going to show you another image of Behemoth. So this is Behemoth. Okay. And this is Leviathan. Okay. Haven't seen Ziz yet. This is Ziz. And you'll see that so the last three images I've shown you have all got writing in Hebrew on the bottom, little captions in Hebrew. So this was a sort of French Hebrew, I don't know, perhaps collaboration. So these manuscripts were produced in northern France in the 13th century, but talk about sort of something that, as I said, was more prevalent in the Jewish tradition, which is the story of Behemoth, Leviathan, and Ziz. Kind of a big bird. Here they are again. There we go. All three in this image. Again, this is 13th century. This is a German manuscript. And so you've got Behemoth over on the left-hand side as this lovely ox, just chewing some vegetation. You've got Leviathan as this huge fish type creature curled around an island, actually, against this wonderful sort of stylized sea, these waves. I think that's really fantastic. And then up, sort of almost between the two, but just kind of above the behemoth, the ox, you have this winged bird, so this griffin, and I think that is supposed to, well, in fact, I'm sure that is supposed to be Ziz. So what is the story, and which ones might be Behemoth and Ziz in this picture? Okay, well, I think you can possibly guess by now. So middle panel, I think potentially Behemoth is the hippopotamus over on the left-hand side, and not Ziz, I don't know, is Ziz in this image? I don't think so, like I said. And Leviathan is the crocodile having a bit of a face-off with this hippopotamus on the right. Okay, so from that starting point, so you've got one big earth creature and one big, certainly fearsome creature that is more associated with the sea. Okay, the hippopotamus is in the Nile here, but if you take the ox as the same representation, yeah. This is Behemoth and Leviathan, and the story is that they were indeed both huge creatures. So I'm going to go back, actually, and we will come back to this one once again in a minute. So we're going to go to this one, I think. So Behemoth, here represented as an ox on the left, was created on the 6th day by God. And this, as I say, is more is elaborated far more in Hebrew scriptures than it is in the Bible, but does appear in the book of Job. Job talks all about this pair. So Behemoth created on the 6th day. Leviathan was created actually just before Behemoth on the 5th day. And when Leviathan was created, so this goes all the way back to like the beginning of the world, and in the Bible and obviously in the Jewish scriptures, this is God's creation. Potentially, we're going further back with the alligator, the crocodile, and the hippopotamus, but. Yes, so Leviathan is so huge that he covers all of the ocean. So basically it's this creature that just covers the whole of the oceans. Behemoth is this huge creature that covers the whole of the land. And Ziz, represented here as a little griffin, was a huge bird that covered the whole of the sky. There's a story that some sailors saw this bird standing in the ocean, and basically the ocean only came up to his knees. Do birds have knees? The ocean didn't come up very far, and one of the sailors says, "Oh my God, the ocean can't be that deep," and the other one says, "Well, I dropped my oar into the ocean some time ago, and I can tell you that it's very deep." And the other guy goes, "Well, okay, yeah, but how deep is that?" He said, "Well, I dropped my oar 7 years ago and it still hasn't reached the bottom." So that's how deep it is. So that's how, so that is the magnitude of these beasts, which is obviously why artists have had to use other animals to represent them. So, so you can see that, a couple of artists have chosen the ox to represent Behemoth, and the reason that they've chosen the ox to represent Behemoth was probably because of the book of Job, actually, because Job talks about this creature being so strong like an ox, talks about Behemoth being a herbivore, and that's quite important because it's all like a good kind of kind vibe about an animal that should be feared. Talks about the ox having a tail the size of a cedar tree, so trying to kind of really impart the size and the magnitude of these creatures. And then Leviathan was talked about also in Job as being this kind of quite fearsome sea creature with lots of teeth, and you can just about see teeth here, that could twist and turn, and was basically feared in the sea. Now, the difference between these two creatures, apart from one was land and one was sea, and Ziz, by the way, was just this huge bird. I don't know. Ziz actually sort of is a bit of a bystander in this story. He comes back in at the end, but it's more about Leviathan and Behemoth. So land and sea all kind of equal. In some stories, God creates a Mrs. Behemoth and a Mrs. Leviathan. In some other stories, there's only a Mrs. Leviathan. But what happens with Leviathan is that chaos comes along, and chaos starts messing with Leviathan and corrupts Leviathan. So chaos back in the beginning of time was like so many things, like Mother Earth. Both a kind of a concept and an actual person. So that's the same with chaos. So chaos comes in and messes with Leviathan and actually corrupts Leviathan. So Leviathan now has evil dwelling within it. So has understands and is ready to commit something with evil intent. So God thinks, oh, blimey, that's not great. This kind of crazy sea-dwelling creature that has evil intent, and I've created a Mrs. Leviathan. That's not a very good idea. Too much power, they can procreate. So he gets rid of Mrs. Leviathan. So Mrs. Leviathan is no more. So what we're left with is Behemoth on the land, Leviathan in the sea. They're both of equal power, and so therefore there's this sort of stasis. So they know that if they go into combat, all bets would be off as to who would win, and in fact they would probably just kill each other. So that's how equal they are. So just going back to that idea and going back, so as I said, sort of the depictions here are 13th century, and both come really from the book of Job. But if you go back to the Mosaic, which is BC, can't have been really in the Christian tradition, but that's why I think that probably this idea of this sort of creation theory actually predates the Christian religion and was just borrowed or recycled, however you want to put it. So definitely then you can see what's going on here, the hippopotamus and the crocodile. So this is a scene from the Nile, and the hippopotamus and the crocodile, both fearsome creatures, both completely equally matched. The hippopotamus was actually the most feared creature, but known like the ox to be a herbivore, kind of not out to get you, but nonetheless absolutely would wreak havoc, and can be quite aggressive when provoked. Crocodile, I mean, you just wouldn't want to ever meet a crocodile, would you? So that kind of works in the context of this Nile mosaic. Not entirely sure at all where this where this myth might have first, originated. That was, I didn't need to say that, did I? Originated. But interesting to think that the fact that they're both kind of looking at each other and seem to be in some sort of combat or about to engage in combat, or there's a bit of a standoff, there's a contretemps anyway, isn't there, going on there. I think that definitely does. I don't understand why the artist would have depicted these two animals as such, if there wasn't something potentially to do with Leviathan and Behemoth as we've sort of come to understand them. Is my theory. I don't know whether I'm correct, but I've just been thinking about it, so that's all. And I see it actually, I'm just looking at the top panel now, and there's a snake in sort of having an interesting chat to, I don't know what that creature is. What is that thing? Is that, I don't know, to something else. If anyone can identify that creature, then answers on a postcard, please. Perhaps I'll have to look that up. Interesting. Okay, right. So we've got these three, and then these again from the British Library. So this is Behemoth once again, and this is Leviathan once again. See, very, very similar depictions for these two. Not so much for good old Ziz. So, the world is quite happy. Job talks about these. He talks about this, this creation theory. He just talks about the stasis. What he doesn't go on to talk about is something that is then elaborated on in the Hebrew scriptures, which is this. Okay, so you're thinking, what on earth is going on here? What has this got to do with Behemoth, Leviathan, and even Ziz? Well, if you are thinking that looks like they might be at a banquet or something, you would be absolutely right. So this is a big old feast. And this panel is below, in fact, this panel. So two very different images with very different colouring. I'll show you them both together. There we go. Perhaps let's have that one. That's better. So this is from the 13th century, and this is very much, as I said, in the Hebrew tradition regarding the feast, because actually this is depicting what will happen at the end of the world. So in case you were wondering, this is what's going to happen. So you've got Behemoth and you've got Leviathan, and they are so powerful that no one can, they can destroy anything in their wake. No one can destroy them apart from each other. So at the end of the world, what will happen is that God will command Behemoth and Leviathan to engage in mortal combat. And they will fight, and they will fight to the death for not one of them, but both of them, because they are equal in strength. And once they have died, they will join lovely Ziz, who's already been roasted, on this banquet. So they're going to be cooked and killed. So you've got a land animal, and you've got a sea creature, sea animal, and you've got a flying thing, flying animal in this banquet. So very very balanced diet. But the only people that will be invited to this banquet, because remember it's the end of the world, are the righteous. So this is going to be a banquet for the righteous, and I'm assuming that they must be thinking that there's going to be a lot of righteous people, because just remember how big these creatures are, and they didn't have freezers in those days. So the righteous will eat up these animals, so they will be sacrificed basically at the end of the world, and after that banquet will move into the Mosaic age, where there is no evil. So it's only the righteous people. So all the bad ones have gone, and happy days. So that's the story of Behemoth and Leviathan. Who knew? Because I certainly did not. I think it's fantastic and really fascinating. It's a creation myth. These two huge beasts, you know, can't be. How do you possibly depict them visually? You depict them as beasts that you kind of know, and you know, and Job helped us out there with his sort of description of an ox, and yeah, and you depict them maybe not so much in combat because that's going to be the end of the world, but you depict them maybe side by side, or you know, within the same pages of the scriptures. And if you are Jewish, you then depict this big old banquet underneath where they're all being eaten. That's also, so Job doesn't touch on that at all. That's also though mentioned, I think, in the apocryphal Old Testament. So there you go. That story was picked up by the apocryphers. Leviathan and Behemoth. That's the story. So, have a lovely day, everybody, and a lovely weekend when we get to it. And I will see you next week with some more. Maybe look at the Kraken. Look at the Kraken and Ziz. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enlightened, and thanks again for joining, and have a good time. Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.